Welcome to this First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement Remove Child Family Class Claim Form walkthrough video. This video was created to help guide you step by step to fill out your claim form for the Removed Child Family Class, or Claim Form C. If you are submitting a claim form as a representative for a removed child family class member who has died, please see the video for Claim Form D. Before we get started, there are a couple of things you should know about. You or the person you're completing the claim for as a personal representative may be eligible as both removed child and removed child family class member. If that describes your situation, just know you'll need to fill out separate forms for each of those classes. Filling out a claim form can be an emotional experience, bringing up a lot of memories. You don't have to fill it out all at one time. You can take breaks and come back to things as you feel ready. If you need additional help, you can call the administrator. They can answer your questions or connect you with a claims helper. And if you feel you need wellness or mental health support, you can reach out to someone through these free services, which are available 24 hours a day. All right, let's start your claim form. This is Claim Form C. This is the form you need to submit a claim under the Removed Child Family Class as a caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent of a removed child. You may also be submitting as the personal representative of a caregiving parent or grandparent who is considered a person under disability. Let's start by defining who may be eligible as a caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent under the settlement. It includes a biological or adoptive parent, a biological or adoptive grandparent, or a step-parent who is First Nations. To be eligible, the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent must have lived with, assumed, and exercised parental responsibilities over the removed child at the time of the child's removal. And the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent must be the one from whom the removed child was first removed. Foster parents are not eligible under the settlement agreement. The following information may bring up difficult emotions. Please reach out to the wellness supports available if you need them. Caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents who committed abuse as defined by the settlement agreement that led to the removal of the child are not eligible for compensation in relation to that child. If you have any questions about this, please call the administrator. A removed child is someone who is a First Nations person and was removed from their home as a child, someone under the age of majority, while the child or their caregiving parents or caregiving grandparents were ordinarily resident on reserve in Canada or anywhere in the Yukon. This means the child's caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent were living on reserve most of the year. If this doesn't describe your experience or the experience of the person you represent, or you want more information about the various definitions, visit fnchildclaims.ca. We'll explain exactly what age of majority means a little bit later in the video. A removed child is also someone who was placed into care by child welfare authorities between April 1, 1991 and March 31, 2022. The removed child's placement must have been funded by Indigenous Services Canada. Removal from the Northwest Territories and Nunavut are not covered under this settlement agreement. You may be living in the Northwest Territories and Nunavut now, but you will not be eligible if the child was removed while you were ordinarily resident in those territories. To learn more about eligibility requirements, you can use the Eligibility Information tool at fnchildclaims.ca or call the administrator. The deadline to submit your claim form as a caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent is dependent on their age. Even if the removed child is still under the age of majority, the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent needs to submit their claim based on their age. Remember, if you are submitting this claim form as a personal representative of the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent, the deadlines will depend on the age of the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent, not the age of the personal representative. The age of majority varies by province and territory. In some cases, it is 18, and in other areas, it is 19. You'll need to check to make sure how this applies to this claim. If the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent has reached the age of majority when the claims period opened on March 10, 2025, then they have 3 years to submit a claim. This means the claim needs to be submitted by March 10, 2028. If the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent was under the age of majority when the claims period opens, they will have 3 years from the date they reach the age of majority to submit the claim. Caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents can submit their claim for compensation as early as 2 years before they reach the age of majority, but they cannot receive compensation money until they reach the age of majority. The administrator won't accept claims from anyone younger than 2 years before the age of majority. As you can see, there are multiple deadlines depending on the situation. If you have any questions, reach out to the administrator to make sure you don't miss the deadline. And remember, the deadline is connected to the age of the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent and not the age of the removed child. The form officially starts on page 2. Part 1 applies to the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent. This might be you, or if you are the personal representative of a person under disability, it is the person you are completing the form on behalf of. Part 2 is contact information. This includes the address and other contact information for the administrator to reach you, whether you are completing the form for yourself or you are a personal representative completing the form for a person under disability. Part 3 provides instructions on the identification you will need to submit your claim. Part 4 is signed and dated by the person completing the claim. Part 5 is a section specifically for the personal representative of a person under disability. If you are completing your own claim, you do not need to fill out this section. Part 6 is where you would provide information about the child or children removed from your care. If you are a personal representative of a person under disability, this is where you would provide information about the child or children removed from the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent. Part 1 is where you fill in basic information for the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent. This information includes name, birth name if it's different, and date of birth. Enter the date of birth using the numbers for the month, day, and year you were born, in that order. Make sure your name and date of birth match the ID you provide in Part 3. If you have an Indian registration number and a social insurance number, you can add them too. You can submit without this, but having this information may help the administrator process your claim. Part 2 is where you put your contact information as the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent or the personal representative to a person under disability. This is where you include your mailing address. Be sure to include a phone number and if you have one, an email address. That way the administrator can still contact you if you move. Your contact info is even more important if your mailing address listed here is temporary. For example, if you are staying in a correctional or a medical facility or a public place like a hotel or a friendship center. In some cases, you may be staying with someone and are using their address. If this describes your situation, please be sure to add the name of the place where you are staying. And if you're staying with a family member, please add their name to help the administrator get in touch with you if it's needed. And if your contact information changes, please call the administrator right away. This is important because if the administrator can't reach you, there could be delays in processing your claim and receiving your compensation. Part 3 of the form asks you to attach one piece of government identification for the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent. Accepted ID includes anything on this list. While you only need one piece of ID, it is a good idea to provide multiple pieces to make it easier to confirm your identity, and it's especially good to provide a photo ID. You can also find the list at fnchildclaims.ca/identification. Attach a photocopy, scan, or photo of your identification. Never send the originals. Now we'll move into Part 4, which is a privacy release and acknowledgement. Your privacy is important, and the administrator is committed to protecting the information you provide. That said, processing a claim may require others to be involved, such as the Government of Canada, Class Council, third-party assessors, the Settlement Implementation Committee, claims helpers, and child welfare authorities. In cases with competing claims or multiple people claiming to be personal representatives, information may be shared with an appointed personal representative if required under the claims process. It is important that you read this page carefully and make sure you are comfortable with what it says. By signing Part 4, you are acknowledging and agreeing that in certain circumstances, the administrator or child welfare authorities may need to share your information to process your claim. You are also acknowledging that the administrator, claims helpers, and third-party assessors don't represent Canada or provide legal advice, and that the information you are providing is true to the best of your knowledge. You also understand you might be asked for additional information needed to process your claim. It is very important to sign and date your claim form. An unsigned or undated form will lead to delays in the administrator's ability to review your claim. This form needs to be signed. If you do have questions, you can contact the administrator at no cost. If you are submitting a claim as a personal representative for a caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent who is a person under disability, Part 5 is the section that needs to be filled out, but only if the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent is a person under disability. A person under disability is a person unable to manage, make reasonable judgments, or make decisions with respect to their affairs because of mental incapacity, and has a personal representative who has been appointed according to provincial, territorial, or federal legislation. It's a personal representative's job to manage or make judgments or decisions on behalf of a person under disability who is an eligible claimant. This might include managing someone's finances, for example. First thing you'll need is a document showing you have been legally appointed as the caregiving parents or caregiving grandparents' personal representative to manage their property and finances. It could be a signed power of attorney or protection mandate. This would come from the province or territory where the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent lives. It could also be a provincial or territorial appointment order, including appointment of a public guardian and trustee, or a federal appointment order for the administration of property. Then, as the personal representative, you'll also need to provide a copy of one piece of your government-issued ID to the administrator. Again, remember, only send scans, photocopies, or photos of ID and other documents. Never send the originals. Provide your full name and make sure it matches the ID you are including with this claim form. If you are a personal representative who has been appointed to represent the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent as part of your job, for example, a public guardian or trustee, you also have to provide the name of the organization you work for. As you start Part 6, please note that it's important you fill out the information for each child removed from your care as the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent, or on their behalf as the personal representative. You can copy or photocopy the page as many times as you need. This part can bring up a lot of emotions. Remember, you don't have to fill it out all at one time. You can start, stop, and come back to it later. And if you want to reach out to someone for wellness or mental health support, here are some places you can call, available to you for free 24 hours a day. If you're ready, let's continue. After selecting the role that best describes the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent's relationship to the removed child, parent, grandparent, or a step-parent who is First Nations, you need to fill out the name of the removed child at the time the child was removed and their date of birth. If you have the removed child's Indian registration number and social insurance number, this information can help when the claim is being processed. But if you don't, it's okay. Now, you'll need to provide information about the child's first removal. You are only asked to provide 3 pieces of information about the removal. The first is the date of removal. Please fill in the month and year the child was removed from the care of the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent. The second is where the child was taken when they were placed in care. Was it on reserve or off reserve? Finally, was the child placed with another family member, such as a parent, step-parent, grandparent, sibling, aunt, uncle, or first cousin? Depending on the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent's relationship to the child, you may need to provide evidence of how they are related. If the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent are First Nations and the biological parent or grandparent of the removed child, you do not need to submit additional supporting documentation with this claim form, at least not right now. The administrator will confirm the relationship or contact you for supporting documentation if they need it. If the caregiving parent or caregiving grandparent are not First Nations or are not the biological parent or grandparent of the removed child, they will need to provide evidence of their relationship to the removed child. This could include a long-form birth certificate, adoption papers, marriage documents, or evidence of common law relationship. Contact the administrator if you have any questions. The final page in this form provides space for a second removed child's information. If you have a second removed child to add to the claim, you provide the information and documents, if necessary, just as you did for the first child. If you have more than 2 children to add to the claim, you can copy or photocopy the page as many times as you need to. Okay, you've filled out all your information and gathered all your support materials. Now, how do you submit everything? There are 4 ways. The first is online, which is the fastest way to get your claim in. You do this by visiting the online portal at portal.fnchildclaims.ca. You'll create an account and then be directed to submit all claim form information online. Once you have completed all your information, you'll upload a copy of your identification and other documents and submit. The second way is to fill out the PDF claim form online and then either add your digital signature or print it to add your signature and date. You can also print the claim form and complete it by hand. Either way, don't forget to sign and date your claim form at Part 4. After you've completed it, you can sign it and scan it, along with your identification and other documents. You can then email it to claims@admin.fnchildclaims.ca. You can also fax it to 1-416-815-2723. And of course, you can always mail everything to Settlement Administrator, P.O. Box 2500, Station, Maine, Newmarket, Ontario, L3Y 0H9. Please do not courier your claim forms because the administrator cannot accept courier deliveries. The important things are to fill out your claim form completely, include copies of your ID or other required documents, sign, date your claim form, and send everything in before the deadline, which depends on how old you were at the time the claim period opened. Remember, you don't have to do this by yourself if you don't want to. You can call the administrator with questions, and if you need more support, they can connect you to a claims helper who can provide one-on-one assistance to help you complete your claim form. If you need wellness and mental health support at any time, reach out to Hope for Wellness or the Kids Help phone line. We hope this has been helpful and that you have the information you need to submit your claim or know where to go if you need additional support.